Welcome back, everyone. POW Ponder Weather here. We've got several rounds of severe storms, plus more record heat. Then heading into next week, we've actually got a pretty significant cool down by the end of the week. So let's start off with the big picture on the satellite view and take a look out here in the open seas. It's pretty clear out here where it typically is this time of year, down here in the Caribbean and out into the open waters of the Atlantic. But you can actually see where this stalled frontal boundary that was draped across a good part of Florida here, those thunderstorms have since moved on, but that was the storm system that brought all the record rains down there in Fort Lauderdale. They had 26 inches, and even yesterday they had it a couple of more inches with more flood warnings down there. We had that low pressure center we also dealt with as well that moved inland on Thursday. Now that's well inland and moving across portions of the Ohio Valley with some rain showers for them. But on the outskirts, that's where they're finding themselves under the ridge of high pressure and more record heat that's going to be unfolding across this afternoon. But you can see the jet stream moving across the middle part of the country. That's where storms are going to be breaking out later on this afternoon and then move into portions of the Missouri Valley as we head into your Saturday time frame. But today, as well as yesterday, we've had a lot of record heat unfolding. So numerous tide or record highs across the board. Anywhere in these red shaded areas, you broke your daily record. So we've had numerous temperatures well into the 80s up here into Minnesota, Wisconsin, back here into Michigan. New York City hit 90 degrees yesterday. Incredibly warm for this time of year. And there's more heat today. You can actually see where that stronger cold front is finally moving across the middle of the country. That's going to be the culprit of more severe storms across portions of Nebraska and Kansas later on this afternoon. But yes, under that ridge of high pressure, plenty of heat along the dry line here out here in West Texas and over the top as well, where that dominating ridge and there into the northeastern sections. Wow, look at those temperatures. Well into the upper 80s, if not 90s, if you actually zoom into some of these areas. 90 degrees again in New York City, back into 87 there for Philadelphia. But man, look at Hartford. Hartford, 93 degrees, guys. I mean, the average high is 57. That is insanely warm for this time of year for them. And obviously, numerous daily records are breaking for that's been set for many years, and it's part of the neck of the woods. Even Providence there, 92 degrees. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. It's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's start off with the severe risk today. So you notice what we've been talking about further south into Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, there's just been a strong cap from the beginning and having that capping inversion. So the Storm Prediction Center has been downgrading this. It was under a slight risk. They changed it to marginal. Now they've kind of removed it altogether because it's basically going to be a dominating, capping inversion today further south into Texas and Oklahoma, where they don't have that inversion and where they have a little bit more moisture to work with. Yes, we'll have to be concerned about stronger to severe storms up here in far extreme portions of Oklahoma, but especially into Kansas, as well as into southern portions of Nebraska later on this evening into the early evening time frame. But you also have some stronger storms with that low pressure center that's going to be lifted up into the Carolinas, and some of these are going to be some gustier wind producers later on this afternoon as well. So you can take a look at the satellite picture, and as this dry line gets a little bit closer, it's basically going to be staying west of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, probably stopping around Weatherford area. But again, it's going to hit that brick wall. So you see there's not much activity is going to be able to penetrate the boundary layer. But where it's able to, yeah, storms are probably going to be erupting right into the early evening time frame up here into Kansas as well as into Nebraska. So be on high alert, and some of these could be some larger hail producers, maybe some golf ball size hail up here into this region. So definitely be on high alert as we get into the early evening time frame. But yes, there's the rainfall specs for today. So yeah, again, the latest high resolution guidance doesn't really have much of anything further south into Texas and Oklahoma. But where the instability is going to be breaking out, we are going to be getting some light to moderate rain, and some of those could be stronger thunderstorms, and some of those larger hail producers. There's the instability, complements of that low pressure that was entering the Gulf, that came inland on Thursday. Now it's going to be shifting over here in portions of the Carolinas, going into portions of West Virginia, as well as into to Virginia, for today and into the overnight time frame with light to moderate rain. But for tomorrow, we got to be concerned. This is our big setup for the week. As we get a little bit closer, that jet stream taps into some of this Gulf moisture. They did upgrade this to an enhanced risk for severe storms, especially across Arkansas, because this setup looks to unfold in the heat of the afternoon. So yes, some of these, again, could be big time hail producers on the leading edge of that squall line that will be moving across. So if you live in far northeastern portions of Texas, especially into Arkansas and southern portions of Missouri, be on high alert of some of those big time hail producers of that golf ball, possibly some ping pong size variety. And then once this kind of congeals into a solid squall line, then that's when I think it's going to be turning into more of a gustier wind type setup, 60 to 65 mile per hour winds, but definitely have to be concerned as well of some isolated spin up tornadoes, especially into Arkansas. That was the main concern with those isolated discrete supercells before these kind of congeal into a squall line. And then we'll have to be looking at for some of those QLCS type tornadoes along that leading edge of that squall line as it moves across, into the afternoon, early evening time frame. So yes, if we add in the precipitation for beyond the next 24 hours, yes, we don't have the capping inversion to help limit these thunderstorms. There's not going to be nothing to stop this, these things to lift to high cloud tops, 40, 50, 60,000 feet up in the atmosphere. That's what they're going to be able to produce some of those bigger time hail producer storms, but rotating at the surface as well. So definitely we've got all three modes of severe weather under the gun, especially in the portions of Arkansas and southern Missouri, and then heavier rains filtering further south, especially along the coastal regions and heading into portions of the Florida panhandle. But going into Sunday timeframe, that system continues to shift off into the east. It's not going to be nearly as significant, but still some of these could be on the gustier wind type variety. In the same areas that got hit hard just yesterday with that tropical type funnels, and we had some tornado warnings up here in this area down here in Georgia. So definitely kind of the same type setup as this system moves across. So you have to be on high alert even on Sunday time frame for those stronger thunderstorms into the heat of the afternoon. But it's got some cold air too. It's definitely got some cold air to the north side of that, because it drops down to a 996 millibar low pressure. Even though it's April, it's still cold enough to snow in some areas of the country. And where they've seen a lot of snow and where they've seen a lot of heat is going to be replaced with snow. So back in Minneapolis, where they hit 88 degrees, now heading into Sunday, some snow enters back in the picture. So they're trying to knock on the door of the all-time record for snow, and they just might get there, because if you take what's maybe unfolding for the rest of the week here, combining what I'm going to show you for next week, they're going to be pretty close getting to the all-time totals up there. But yeah, definitely more snow on the way for them, especially in Duluth, and just a little bit further north. They've got 132 inches of snow in Duluth, Minnesota, and there's definitely more snow on the way, whether you like it or not. But yes, further south, there's where you have to be dealing with some of those severe storms, especially in the parts of Alabama, especially in a good part of Georgia and into the Florida panhandle during the afternoon hours on your Sunday time frame. But let's take a look at the updated drought monitor, because man, there's been obviously a significant change down there up here into the western portions of the state into California, where there's basically not even a drought left, right? I mean, this has been a significant difference. The only areas are just kind of like abnormally dry down here in California. So the drought is almost pretty much done with. Where it's not is in the middle of the country. And this is what's helping to have the capping inversion, a lot of these setups into Texas and in Oklahoma, because we've had this drought just been pretty persistent across West Texas, Western Oklahoma, and Western Kansas as well. So as these systems come across, you got the southwest winds, and it creates that capping inversion, that warmer air aloft, and it puts that protective lid, but it doesn't have that lid once it taps into the Gulf of Mexico. And we've seen this on the last several setups down here into this region. But going into next week, things are going to be changing at the end of the week. But before that, we're still going to have to be dealing with some pretty intense heat, especially further south. So I do feel areas like into Oklahoma, where you have been dry, even into North Texas, where it's been probably going into next week, it might be closer to 3 weeks without really any rain. So obviously the ground is drying out in that neck of the woods, and it heats up quick, right? So dry soils heat up quick. But we do have a fairly significant cold front heading in at the end of next week for April standards. So let's walk this through. So here's the setup on Tuesday. So we're going to have a little bit of a disturbance, but again, where the cap is not more into play is further south into South Texas, where I do feel like you're going to get some rain showers, and further north is just going to be pretty limited and not be able to squeeze out as much precipitation. But we've definitely have some cold air on the way, especially across the Pacific Northwest, where you have been chilly. You're going to remain chilly even in the next week, and it's still going to be cold enough to snow into the higher elevations, as that first system will try to wind itself down up here into portions of New England. But heading into Thursday, things change pretty significantly. We are going to have another dip in the jet stream. We've got another pretty significant low pressure center that's going to be forming across portions of Minnesota again, as well as Iowa. And we've got a little bit more lift. This is more of a positively tilted trough, so it's not as significant. I don't think it really warrants a day 7 risk, but nonetheless, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted that day 7 risk, and we've seen several of these lately where they extend the day 4 through 7 risk down here, and then by the time it actually gets closer, the capping inversion is just too much, and it finally kind of eats away and erodes. And that might be the case. Even this on a day 7 is more of a conditional risk if the cap is able to break. So yes, I mean, it does have a day 7 risk in a good part of Oklahoma into Kansas again, but I do have a feeling by the time we get a little bit closer, this is definitely going to be more of a conditional risk than something to be greatly concerned about, this far out. But as you move forward, things get interesting for April standards, because we do look at the EPO, we'll look at some of the teleconnections. We typically don't look at this in the spring months because it's not as prevalent, but we've got a pretty significant dip in that teleconnection, and what that's going to be able to do is going to be able to lower the jet stream further south, and it's going to be able to push some of that colder air out of Canada and bring it further south as well. So a lot of areas that have experienced those record high temperatures are going to be experiencing some really nice comfortable temperatures, and replaced not 20 to 30 degrees above average, you're going to be 20 to 25 degrees below average. So that's a significant change as we head into next Friday timeframe up here with that stronger cold front. Now, ahead of it, you're going to be really warm. You get that compressional heating ahead of the cold front, so you're going to be really warm further south. But yes, to the north, you're going to have a pretty sharp temperature gradient from our northern states, and then of course in the southern states heading into your Friday time frame. But that cold front definitely has a lot of legs with it, and it's going to be on the move, and it's going to bring more snow in parts of the Dakotas as well as into Minnesota. Whether you like it or not, there's definitely more snow on the way for you guys up there, and portions of Wisconsin, as we'll be dealing with some storms right along ahead of that cold front that'll be dropping further south. So as we get into your Friday morning, it kind of really shows up on the map, right? All these areas, this is your morning low temperatures for April 21st time frame, widespread 20s and snowing in a good part of the Dakotas, into Minnesota. But yes, further south, that's 74 degrees as a morning temperature. So you typically always like your warmest before a cold front, as you may have noticed in some of these, and that's due to some of this, kind of compressional heating. But yes, definitely the cold front, and it's going to be a significant change on the way as we move forward. So there's a surface map as we head into Saturday. So once this cold air moves through your area, you kind of wipes out and clears out the atmosphere. So it's going to be really nice back behind it. We'll just have to deal with some stronger storms, at ahead of this cold front. This will be on the day on Saturday, but as you wake up on Saturday, you're going to be feeling that colder air. It's still going to be locked into our northern states, but further south, I mean, these are low temperatures, guys, into the 30s, back into Kansas, into near 40 degrees in Oklahoma City, even parts of the DFW area, 51 degrees. You can see, 45 in Arkansas. So this is definitely a significant change of what you've been experiencing as of late, and you're still going to be warming up pretty quickly and then dropping just as fast heading into next weekend. So yes, it gets really interesting as you head into next Sunday time frame, where a lot of these areas, these are high temperatures, folks. These are highs in the 40s into Minnesota, so a significant change. These areas that have seen highs in the 80s for much of the week will be highs in the 40s by the time we head into next Sunday timeframe, draped across Michigan here, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, even along into Connecticut. 93 degrees today. You'll be in the 40s, maybe 50 degrees for a high temperature next Sunday. So that is definitely a significant change. High of 65 there in Dallas. I mean, in the low 60s for Oklahoma City. So yes, definitely some much colder conditions and much more pleasant temperatures as we head into the end of next week. And of course, underneath that, with the combination of those two storm systems, we've got some pretty decent snow, even on the EPS guidance. This is kind of the overall ensemble guidance from the Euro model, showing that snow amounts pretty fairly decent for April standards, right? So it blankets the Intermountain West. It blankets a good part of portions of Nebraska, the Dakotas, more snow for Minnesota into Wisconsin. So all these areas will be definitely adding to those totals by the time we add up to the end of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.